Brawl Stars is easily Supercell's most successful game, always managing to secure the top leaderboards of the Supercell games. We cannot deny that its impact is quite profound on the gaming industry, but behind this whole face of glory and power lie a lot of problems, just like every other game. And there are many problems that concern the characters themselves, the Brawlers. Today we'll be unveiling the problems that concern the Brawlers of Brawl Stars. First of all, and this is the most obvious problem, is that there are too many Brawlers in Brawl Stars. 93 as of the time I'm speaking right now. And this number only increases every month. Yes, Brawl Stars releases a Brawler every month, so it is quite fast-paced. On beta, Brawl Stars only had 15 Brawlers, and the only rarities were Rare, Super Rare, Epic, and Legendary. And there was also Common, which was ultimately removed later. This creates many problems in terms of Brawlers. One of the most obvious problems is that the Brawlers just become rushed, because on release, Leon was unique with his invisibility, and it was pretty much what defined his identity. But now we have a mythic brawler, aka Juju, whose gadget is the hypercharged version of the super of a legendary brawler. Now, how is that supposed to make any sense if you think about it? There are many other examples like Cordelius with Otis, but we won't be going through them. So the more Brawlers there are, the less original they become, and that is completely normal. What I don't understand though is that compared to Clash Royale, whose cards only have one attack and sometimes a gimmick if they're higher rarity, releases a card every 3 months or so, while Brawl Stars with Brawlers that have an attack, a super, gadgets, star powers, hypercharges, and we get one every month. I know that it's meant to keep the game new and not feel too boring, but at the same time, the overwhelming amount of Brawlers makes progression at some point extremely difficult, because you start with the rare and super rare Brawlers, which are very easy to unlock, but then you get to the epics and mythics and legendaries. Then of course they need more time to actually get them with the credits. I suggest that instead of pumping out a Brawler every month, it would be every 2 months, so that players would actually have a chance to play with the Brawler and progression wouldn't feel so difficult, and the Brawler would get the attention it deserves. Because if we take Finks and Lumi, who were released in the same Brawl Talk, though in 2 different months, everyone focused on Lumi because, you know, degeneracy, and almost everyone forgot about Finks, and now he's only popular in top plays. Moving on to another problem players are concerned about is the imbalance between rarities. Mythics are about 32 Brawlers, which is roughly 1/3 of the Brawlers in the game. However, the rares have been extremely, rare, same as the super rare. Was the last rare Brawler being released, Rosa, is April 2019. That is roughly 6 years since we've seen a rare Brawler, and there's Gus in 2021, so that's 4 years. Supercell responded to this by claiming that it is for the purpose of not overwhelming new players with the amount of Brawlers they have to unlock before reaching the higher rarity ones, although that argument doesn't really make sense. Normally in games, either the rarities are balanced, for example, every rarity, you don't see a big difference in the amount of characters in each one, or the higher the rarity, the less the characters inside, and this one makes sense. For example, in 2019, there were only 3 legendaries. There were Leon, Crow, and Spike, and they felt very unique. And let's not count Sandy, because I'm talking about the beginning of 2019. The Mythics were only 3. Pretty much every rarity felt fair, with a very consistent number in each one. However, now we find that legendaries, which are meant to be this whole unique class, there are a lot of them, especially the epics and mythics. And every time Brawl Stars releases a new brawler, it's either legendary, mythic, or epic. And it doesn't help that legendaries used to be released one per year. But now we've seen in 2024 roughly 3 legendaries were released. And many people were excited about the new rarity when Brawl Stars mentioned it. They were waiting for the exotic rarity, a concept that has been widespread throughout the community, which would be a rarity between epic and mythic to solve the extreme, overwhelming amount of brawlers in each one of those rarities. However, Brawl Stars saw this as an opportunity to grab more cash and decided to release Ultra Legendary, which by the uncreative name is higher than Legendary. And they released Kaze, who is by far one of the most complicated brawlers. Many players did not like that, because who in the world was excited for a rarity higher than Legendary other than those whales or the players, those random concept makers who make a 20-page long concept and only call it a mythic. The new rarity costs 5,500 credits compared to the legendaries, which cost 3,800. And the early access bundle for Kaze cost a whopping 60 bucks. For reference, the highest price of a brawler ever released was Kit at 30 bucks, and he was broken enough to justify the price. Kaze, she's just a complicated brawler who is simply overpowered, not broken, and the players glaze her as best brawler because they translate overcomplicated mechanics to broken. Lastly, there are bound to be some balancing issues with the sheer amount of brawlers. We're speaking 93 brawlers and beyond, because only the next month after this video we will see another new brawler. So with the extreme amount of brawlers, it becomes very difficult to balance brawlers, because one buff could kill a lot of other brawlers and one nerf might just change the whole meta. Why? Because of course in the meta brawlers are related to each other. If the counter gets nerfed, the other brawler becomes better, and etc. Another thing that comes with this extreme amount of brawlers is power creep. Now, if you don't know what power creep is, it's basically when a brawler gets completely outclassed by another. Take the old Bonnie versus Mo. Bonnie was released in 2022 and Mo in 2024, and Mo pretty much was pretty much Bonnie, but with all the issues fixed. We can also see that with Pam, because she has a different problem other than power creep, is that she's simply outdated. She doesn't even fit the current meta. Old Brawl Stars, with its portrait style, was slow and control and siege playstyle, which really fit Pam. Now everything is about flashy hypercharges, and Pam cannot compete with that with her inconsistent attack. Same with Sam, who heavily struggles with the extreme damage inflation caused by the hypercharges. In fact, the damage I was about to say damage amplification, sorry Ken. By the extreme damage inflation, the heist itself needed to get a rework. Some side problems include trios being incomplete. The most notable one is the Velociraptor, I don't know what that word is, which has Buzz and Doug, and it hasn't been complete since 2021. And Brawl Stars keeps releasing new trios. This doesn't really harm the game, but lore enthusiasts are the only bunch of people to be concerned about this problem. Another thing is that with this extreme amount of brawlers, some are bound to be forgotten, either because of simply being garbage or not fitting the current style of Brawl Stars. There are bound to be extremely popular brawlers and ones that are simply forsaken. There are only a few exceptions who manage to live throughout Brawl Stars, for example Mortis and Colt, because they're iconic. There's also the skins problem, where the community keeps roaring about a brawler begging for them to get skins like Griff and Clancy back in the day, and when they get one, the community does not go hooray, they just move on to another brawler, pretend that they like the brawler just to get some attention, and generally they pressure Supercell to create a skin for a brawler that is extremely unpopular, which of course does not guarantee sales for them. That's it for the video, I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.